What happens when the cockiest fighter in UFC history makes the biggest mistake of his career? When raw arrogance meets legendary power? Today, you're about to witness the moment a world champion learned that some legends should never be challenged. Stay until the end, because what Chuck Norris does next will leave you speechless. The year is 2019. The octagon is electric with tension. Tornado. Tommy Blackstone has just retained his heavyweight championship for the fifth consecutive time. At 6 feet 4 inches and 245 pounds of pure muscle, Tommy is considered untouchable. His record? A perfect 25-0 with 23 knockouts that left opponents questioning their career choices. But Tommy isn't just dominant. He's insufferably arrogant. After tonight's brutal victory, he grabs the microphone from Joe Rogan with his trademark smirk. You know what? Tommy's voice echoes through the arena. I'm getting bored. These so-called fighters are nothing but punching bags. I need a real challenge. The crowd buzzes with anticipation. Tommy's eyes scan the audience, that dangerous glint of overconfidence gleaming under the bright lights. I'll fight anyone, anyone. I don't care if they're active, retired, or legends from the past. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can stand toe-to-toe with the tornado. Little does he know, those words are about to change everything. Deep in the heart of Texas, Chuck Norris is leading his morning martial arts class. At 79 years old, the legendary fighter moves with the fluid grace of someone half his age. His students watch in awe as he demonstrates techniques that seem to defy physics itself. Chuck's phone buzzes. It's his old friend, UFC President Dana White. Chuck, I've got a situation. Dana's voice crackles through the speaker. This hotshot Tommy Blackstone is running his mouth, saying he'll fight anyone from any era. The media's eating it up. But honestly, the kid's gotten too big for his britches. Chuck chuckles, a sound that somehow manages to be both gentle and terrifying. And you want me to teach him some humility? The kid specifically mentioned your name in an interview yesterday. Said, and I quote, even that old-timer Chuck Norris wouldn't last 30 seconds with me. Social media is going crazy. Chuck's expression doesn't change, but his students notice the temperature in the room seems to drop 5 degrees. When and where? Chuck asks calmly. The announcement breaks the internet. Within hours, number Chuck vs. Tommy is trending worldwide. Sports analysts are divided. Some call it a publicity stunt. Others whisper about the foolishness of challenging a living legend. Tommy's reaction is exactly what you'd expect. During his press conference, he laughs so hard he nearly falls off his chair. Chuck Norris? The guy from Walker, Texas Ranger? Are you serious? Tommy wipes tears from his eyes. Listen, I respect what the old man did back in the Stone Age, but this is 2019. I'm a real fighter. This isn't some Hollywood movie where the good guy always wins. I'll try to go easy on Grandpa, but accidents happen in the ring. Someone should really warn him about what he's getting into. Meanwhile, Chuck's preparation is different. Instead of the typical training montages you'd expect, he's seen meditating in his garden, reading philosophy books, and practicing forms that look more like poetry than combat techniques. The media can't understand it. Where are the intense workouts? The sparring sessions? The trash talk? Chuck simply smiles when asked about his strategy. Some storms announce themselves with thunder and lightning. Others arrive in perfect silence. The tension is palpable as both men sit across from each other for the first time. Tommy arrives fashionably late, dripping with gold chains and designer clothes. Chuck walks in quietly, wearing a simple black gi, looking like he could be heading to teach a children's karate class. The contrast is striking. So, Chuck, a reporter asks, how do you feel about facing someone literally half your age and in the prime of their career? Chuck leans into the microphone, his voice steady and calm. Age is just a number. Experience, however, is earned through decades of dedication. Tommy's learned how to fight. I've learned when not to. Tommy snorts. Is that supposed to be intimidating? Look, Pops, I appreciate the Zen master routine, but this isn't a fortune cookie contest. This is real fighting. You're absolutely right, Chuck nods thoughtfully. It is real fighting, perhaps more real than you understand. Tommy leans forward, his voice dripping with condescension. Let me paint you a picture, old man. You're going to walk into that octagon, I'm going to hit you once, and you're going to realize that all those movie stunts didn't prepare you for actual combat. Then you're going to tap out, probably cry a little, and everyone's going to remember that Chuck Norris went out like a quitter. The room falls silent. Even the reporters stop scribbling. Chuck stands up slowly, extends his hand toward Tommy. We'll see. Tommy hesitates for just a moment. Something in Chuck's calm demeanor unsettles him, but then shakes the offered hand with his typical arrogance. The handshake lasts exactly 3 seconds. When Chuck releases his grip, Tommy flexes his fingers, a confused expression flickering across his face. 20,000 screaming fans pack the arena. Pay-per-view buys have shattered records. The entire combat sports world is watching as two eras collide. Tommy enters first, his usual spectacle of pyrotechnics and deafening music. He shadow boxes for the cameras, his movements sharp and powerful. This is his domain, his kingdom. Then the lights dim. Chuck's entrance is the opposite of everything expected. No flashy music, no fireworks, just a simple spotlight following him as he walks calmly to the octagon. But something strange happens. The crowd, initially roaring for Tommy, gradually falls silent. Not from boredom, but from a growing sense of awe. As Chuck steps through the octagon door, even Tommy's cornermen seem uneasy. There's something about the way Chuck moves, not the stiffness of age, but the fluid confidence of someone who has nothing left to prove. The referee calls both fighters to the center. Tommy is bouncing on his toes, psyching himself up. Chuck stands perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back, looking more like a meditation teacher than a fighter. You sure about this, old man? Tommy whispers with a sneer. Last chance to back out with some dignity. Chuck's response is barely audible, but the camera picks it up. I never back out, son. I only move forward. The referee gives final instructions. Both fighters touch gloves, though Tommy makes it more of an aggressive tap. Let's get ready to rumble. Tommy explodes forward with the speed and power that made him champion. His left hook, the same punch that has ended careers, cuts through the air toward Chuck's jaw with devastating force. Time seems suspended. Chuck's head moves exactly 3 inches to the right. Tommy's fist passes harmlessly by, the wind from the punch barely disturbing Chuck's hair. In the same fluid motion, Chuck steps forward and places his right palm, not a fist, just his open palm, against Tommy's chest. What happens next defies explanation. Tommy doesn't just fall backward. He launches across the octagon like he's been hit by an invisible freight train. His 245-pound frame crashes into the cage wall with a metallic clang that echoes through the suddenly silent arena. Tommy slides down the wall, his eyes wide with shock and confusion. He's not injured, just completely bewildered. He looks down at his chest where Chuck touched him, then back at Chuck, who hasn't moved from the center of the octagon. How? Tommy gasps, struggling to his feet. The referee looks confused. The crowd is stunned into silence. Even the commentators are speechless. Chuck walks slowly toward Tommy, his hands still clasped behind his back. The hardest lesson in martial arts, he says gently, is learning that true power comes from within. You've spent years building muscle and perfecting technique, but you never learned the most important lesson. What lesson? Tommy asks, his arrogance completely evaporated. Chuck extends his hand again. Respect. Tommy stares at the offered hand, then at Chuck's serene expression. The cocky fighter who entered this octagon no longer exists. In his place stands a humbled young man who just discovered that legends become legends for reasons beyond mere publicity. Slowly, Tommy reaches out and shakes Chuck's hand, this time with genuine respect. The arena erupts, not in celebration of a knockout, but in appreciation of something far more rare, a moment of true teaching. As Chuck raises Tommy's hand alongside his own, the former champion whispers, "Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like." Chuck smiles. That's the first step toward becoming truly unbeatable. So what really happened in that octagon? Sports analysts are still debating. Slow-motion replays show Chuck's palm barely making contact, yet Tommy flew backward with impossible force. Some call it movie magic. Others whisper about ancient martial arts secrets. But perhaps the real magic was simpler. The moment when arrogance met wisdom, when youth encountered experience, and when a champion learned that being undefeated means nothing if you haven't defeated your own ego. Tommy Blackstone retired from fighting 6 months later. Today, he runs a martial arts school in Denver, teaching young fighters not just how to punch and kick, but how to carry themselves with honor and humility. And Chuck Norris? He returned to his quiet dojo in Texas, where he continues teaching the same lessons he's taught for decades. That true strength comes not from what you can destroy, but from what you choose to build. Because sometimes the most powerful victory is the one where nobody has to lose.